Welcome back to the Outsourcing and Scaling Show. My guest today is Tim Jordan. Tim, how are you doing today?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Doing great. I know this episode's not going to come out for a few weeks, so we'll probably be well past that, but I'm looking forward to hanging out with you at SellerCon. It's always fun to, catch up, hang out with the e-commerce community.
Yeah, it's I love it and I dread it because it's a lot of fun, but it takes a lot of energy out of me. And I'm going to be at SellerCon, then IRCE in Chicago, and then I've got some projects I'm working on out in LA. So the next 2 or 3 weeks are going to be rough. So by the time this episode airs, I may be dead.
For those of you that don't know, Tim is a serial entrepreneur that found Ecom and never looked back. His team not only sells their own products and brands across multiple platforms, but through their community, the Private Label Legion, they help countless other entrepreneurs meet goals and scale their businesses as well. We're going to talk all about that. I also know you hire a lot of remote people, but first, let's take a gigantic step back. What were you like growing up? Were you a straight-A student? Were you a rebel? Did you always know that you wanted to be an entrepreneur?
Dude, I've never had anybody ask me this, but it's funny. I was a horrible student. I never studied. I never did my homework. I was the guy that always had zeros on his homework because I was too, I won't say lazy, but distracted to do it, but did well enough on tests that I skirted through high school with like a C average. Same with college. But I was an entrepreneur back in school. Back in, I think, like 5th or 6th grade, I remember the school band had a fundraiser, right, where they're selling these king size candy bars for $1.
Right.
And I remember talking to my dad about it, and I said, hey, I wonder if I could do that. And we drove to Sam's Club, and we bought this big box of like king size Kit Kat and Reese's and Snickers bars, and they were 45 cents a piece. So I started toting these things around school, selling for $1. And I think I did that for like 2 months before finally one of the teachers was like, I don't even think this kid's in the band. And the band director caught me in the hall and says, what are you doing? I said, I'm selling these for the band. He says, you're not in the band. But man, I made all sorts of money and got all sorts of free candy bars. So I think 5th or 6th grade, I got addicted to my first hustle and kind of never went back from there.
I love it. And how do you eventually get into e-com?
Man, completely by accident. I was a full-time firefighter and paramedic, and with the way our schedules work, 24 hours on, 48 off, we had a lot of free time. And I had some different companies, some construction companies, some things like that. But I ended up hooking up with a buddy who was starting a company that supplied goods to the U.S. State Department. Right. So have you seen the movie War Dogs?
I have, but I don't.
Popular movie. A lot of your listeners are. They like get involved in like gun running and like selling guns all over like the Middle East,
right? Government
to the government. Yes. So my job was exactly that, but the non-military side. So instead of guns, we were selling diesel generators and truck tires and all sorts of stuff. So I got involved in multinational, international, commerce because I was sourcing all over the world and shipping all over the world, and then found that I had some great wholesale accounts, hired a guy off Craigslist to teach me how to sell on what I thought was going to be eBay. It turned to Amazon. We ended up doing hitting our first $1 million in sales in like 7 or 8 months. And then I eventually started leaning into the whole concept of if I'm selling wholesale, my suppliers can cut me off at any time and I've got no business. So I started delving into the world of private label, which to me, I hate the term private label because it implies just putting a sticker on something, but private products, private brands, actually building, a platform agnostic e-commerce business. So it's been a wild ride since then.
So you work with a lot of e-commerce sellers. I know you talk to a lot of e-commerce sellers, a lot of which are in doing private label. What are some of the common mistakes that you see, or some of the maybe success stories of people who are really crushing it with private label?
Well, especially in response, this is timely because of the theme of your podcast, but we get in our own way. Right? That's like one of the biggest struggles we see is all of us, for the most part, started out as a hobby, as a side hustle, right? So in our mind, our business is a hobby or a side hustle, and we think small. We don't think big. And the other thing that we do is we become perfectionists. We become control freaks because it's our business, because we started it, because we had to bootstrap this and do it ourselves, and everything's got to be perfect. And then we hit this ceiling because there's only so much we can do. Right? So I tell people all the time, find a business partner, find a mentor, go network with people because you can't do it all. You've got to learn. You've got to augment your strengths. You've got to figure out like what other people can do better than you, and you can swap time with them at something you're faster at, like all of these different principles. And another huge one is building a team. And that is one of the scariest things that you can do, that you have to do when building a business, but you have to do it because otherwise you've only got so many hours a day. You've only got so many skill sets. And, whether you build your team with business partners or with virtual assistants or physical on the ground employees here with you. And I've done all of it. I've got all of those things. You're never going to get past that ceiling. You're never going to start scaling. And some of the most successful business owners that I've met that I'm personally friends with and kind of in our inner circle are those that realized that they needed to gain some humility, right? And that humility being, I can't do it all, right? And I can't control everything. And there are some things I really suck at, and I need to find someone better than me. I don't know computer coding at all. That's why we hire VAs to do all of our back-end technical work. Do I have a clue what they're doing? No, they just do it. But it had to take me, this maturity and this gaining of wisdom to realize, hey, it's better for me to just let somebody else start handling this than me try to screw it up myself. You know what I mean?
Tim, what do you look for when you're hiring someone in terms of not the skill? Obviously, that depends on what you're looking for, but in the actual person.
So I look for the ability to learn, right? I used to try to hire experts. And the problem with experts is they think they know everything. And I would rather have someone that has an exceptionally good attitude, an exceptionally good team loyalty, team focus, someone that can learn quickly so that, if something comes up, they can figure it out themselves and learn quickly. All of those things as opposed to an extremely high skill set, because every business is different. So if I hire somebody with 10 years experience in digital marketing, but they come into, my brands and we're trying to get them to do digital marketing for our brands, they don't understand what we're doing. And it's like we're beating our heads against the wall trying to get them to relearn everything. And right now there are so many resources out there. There are so many educational resources where if you hire a good employee, whether they're virtual or not, you can get them trained. And they can become just tremendous assets to your business. But I think it's more of like a character and attitude thing that's more important than like a skill set.
What do you think the e-commerce businesses should be hiring maybe first or second? Where should people get started in their hiring process?
So e-commerce businesses, so selling products, the two things that you need to outsource first are handling your products. All right. Find a freaking prep center, because if you're putting tape on boxes and, putting FN SKUs on products, you're wasting your time, because you can outsource that extremely inexpensively. You can do the higher level stuff. And the other thing is, I started, a buddy of mine calls it a spaghetti map, like map out your entire day. All right. So spend 2 or 3 days, hire someone to follow you around for 2 or 3 days and literally just log everything you're doing and look through that list. There's a bunch of bullcrap on there that you don't need to do. Now, like going to the bathroom is probably something you can't outsource, but there's every day, if you're an Amazon seller or a Shopify seller, eBay seller, you've got to worry about customer service. You've got to worry about just checking things, like a whole list of things like, are my listings up? Am I indexing? Are my PPC ads still running? Like all of this just maintenance that takes hours and hours and hours, but can easily be outsourced. So do like a spaghetti map of your day and figure out what you're doing that you can easily show someone else to do. And then you're not just freeing yourself up, right? Because you're going to take on more work, but you're replacing yourself on the easy tasks so that you can focus on the revenue creating tasks. Because unfortunately, following up with customer service and making sure that your autoresponder email program working, that doesn't make you money, right? It's just maintenance that has to happen. So I tell people all the time, half of your day can be outsourced at least, but you got to write down those tasks so you can start pinpointing which ones they are.
I love it. And you're someone that's traveling a lot. You're always moving. You're busy. You've got multiple businesses. How are you communicating with all these different people from all over the world?
So one thing I had to do is, for me personally, as our team grew larger, I had to hire a general manager, right? So we actually promoted she was my very first employee with Hickory Flats, actually, here in the US. And now she's my general manager. She was just in my office and I give her 6 or 7 tasks. She sits down and then she launches them out to, our army of VAs, essentially. We use Trello for project management, right? So she loads Trello boards up for everything. We use Airtable for creative. So we have like a VA that manages our brands, not our services side, but our brands, our physical product brands, social media stuff. So Pinterest and Etsy and Pinterest and Facebook, ads, Instagram stuff. They do all the creative elements in there that we go and approve, and they load it up to the schedule. And then me personally, I am not one to sit on my computer. I had a phone call today with this really high level guy. And the first thing I did when he called is I went outside and I walked laps around our office because I can't sit in front of a computer. So for me, I use WhatsApp all the time. I have big WhatsApp groups built. I have all of my assistants and all of my employees on WhatsApp. And sometimes if I'm just in a brain fog, I get in my car and just drive, and I'll start driving around. I'm just voice noting, voice note, voice note, voice note, voice note. And I have a VA that specifically takes all of my WhatsApp communications and delegates and organizes, right? I even have, we have a mastermind program for private label products. And we have a Slack channel built out where clients can, or members of the community, the mastermind, can load questions like tech specific questions. I'm not in Slack. I never log into Slack. I never check it. But I have a VA who monitors that full time, copy and pastes the questions to my WhatsApp. I read it. I send a voice note. She uploads the voice note as an MP3 to Slack and transcribes it into written text. So that's amazing customer service. And literally all I do is read, speak, put my phone down, and she does the 20 minutes of work to answer that question. Our clients are ecstatic. We've done a good job. And it literally took me 2 minutes to do, right? So for me, like, WhatsApp is huge. Of course, I hardly ever check my email, hardly ever check my Facebook message, but I'm trying to outsource all those points where my VAs will consolidate all that communication in one spot where I can easily manage it and handle it.
I love it. So let's shift gears a little bit. I know you sell across different platforms. I think people are familiar with Amazon. They're familiar with Shopify. Are there other platforms that are really working for you right now?
So those are the big ones, Amazon and Shopify. We're working right now on what would I call this? A plan to start selling heavily into retail stores. And we're actually using VAs to do this. All right. We've never shared this with anybody. I'm going to share it with you guys because this is so cool. So what we figured out is a lot of retail stores, especially niche retail stores, boutique stores, do not necessarily go to trade shows anymore. Right. And that used to be what you did. You went to big trade shows and you displayed your goods. They're online searching, but they're all online themselves. So what we're doing is we're hiring a couple of VAs that literally find every boutique store in one of our niches for one of our brands in every state and go to their website. So we're just using Google. Go to their website or Yelp, place like that. Load their emails into a spreadsheet. Load those into a mail list. And we start sending this very tactical email campaign to all of these people, right? I don't have to do anything. But we can easily add 80 or 90 qualified emails a day just by VAs scouting and searching. Then we figure out open rates and retargets and all that crazy stuff, right? So like we're even using VAs to get into retail stores right now. Nobody's doing that. It's pretty awesome.
I love it. I think lead generation is one of those things that not a lot of businesses are doing. I used it to work with over 200 manufacturers back in the day when I was drop shipping. I use it to get on podcasts. I use it to network with influencers and other business owners. You're using it to get into retail. Having a very inexpensive VA that's constantly doing lead generation. And it's not something you just set it up for an hour and forget it. Like you said, there's split testing, there's tweaking, there's different parts that you need to continue to advance and make better, but it can become a really effective part of your business.
Yeah, absolutely.
So talk to me about the private label Legion, and I also know you from Hickory Flax. Tell the audience what that's all about and what they can get out of that.
Yeah, so Hickory Flats is our service business, right? And we offer a lot of cool stuff. We do sourcing trips where we take and teach people how to source, where to source, give them the connections in China. We do it in Central America. We have our mastermind program called the Centurion League. We have some other sourcing and inspection services. We do live events. Like we're going this July to ASD and doing a one-day workshop there that's freaking awesome. We do several of those a year, bunch of cool different stuff. The Private Label Legion is our community, right? And they've kind of started a blend, but we have a free Facebook group. Go to our Facebook group, Private Label Legion, join it, check out our page. We have an awesome podcast called Legion Radio. We have a pretty substantial YouTube channel with mountains of free content. You can check that out, Tim Jordan or Private Label Legion. So the Private Label Legion is our community. You can get involved in that for free, become a Legionnaire, if you will. That's the name we like to use. And then Hickory Flats is our service-based business. So check either of those out, and they kind of blend and mesh where you can see everything that we've got going on. A lot of free opportunities in there, a lot of awesome content that you don't have to pay for that can help you scale up your e-commerce business.
Any advice for maybe a 7-figure e-commerce seller that's trying to get to 8 figures? What really takes you to that next level?
Man, you got to build a team, and you've got to. We are in the process of actually hiring a online business manager / integrator that's a very expensive employee. But what we found is, you've got to build this pyramid. All right. You've got to have command structure in place. I worked for the fire department, which technically is like a paramilitary organization. And what they determined is one person can only manage 4 people, right? That's it. You can't manage more than 4 people effectively. So if you're at the top of running your business and you've got an army of VAs and all this stuff, you can't manage 12 people. You've got to start adding in management. And if you incentivize them and pay them well, those managers, then they will make sure that they are increasing revenue with whatever they're responsible for. I see a lot of people that are 8-figure sellers, or I'm sorry, 7-figure sellers, but they're stuck. Like they can't figure out how to scale that one more notch, and they're working 60 hours a week and they can't make that one more step. And I always tell them, like, just replace yourself. Like find one more person in that chain that can drop down below you and spread that wider, and then find a second person. So you're managing 2 now, but you've doubled your workforce. And then the other thing is freaking take care of your relationships, whether it's your supplier, your employees, your 3PL, whatever it is. If you are constantly a pain in the butt to your people, if you're constantly nickel and diming them for everything, they're not going to work with you. And the truth is, we all suck at running a business individually. We do, because we can't do it all. But if we want to scale up our business from, just getting started to, a little bit of sales to a 7-figure to 8-figure to 10-figure, like we can't do it ourselves. We have to build this team. So you have to take care of your assets. You have to take care of making sure they're paid reasonably, making sure that you give them little favors and bonuses, make sure that you treat them with dignity and respect, and make sure that you're constantly replacing yourself and empowering the people that are replacing you to do their job. And that's when things just blow up on you. You can't stop the growth, and you can scale to whatever figure you want to.
Tim, this has been great. Where can people contact you, and what are you most excited about for the rest of the year?
So they can check me out on Facebook. Find me on Tim Jordan, send me a friend request. The big thing though, man, find me in the Private Label Legion Facebook group. That's huge. You can also go to privatelabellegion.com or hickory-flats.com. For me, man, we've got some big stuff in the works. We've got some stuff coming out this year we haven't released that is just freaking enormous, but on like the services and content side. But I'm super excited about Q4. We've been building up some brands of products that are really mature now, and like, we can't even keep stuff in stock for Father's Day. I can't wait for Christmas. We actually do some of our own manufacturing here in the U.S. We own our own facility. We're expanding that right now. We're in kind of construction mode on that. We're starting to stockpile stuff. I think that Q4 for us on our product side is going to be freaking unbelievable. But it took us a few years to get here. It took us building a big team. It took us trusting and delegating to our staff and team members. And I think that we're going to really reap the rewards of that venture and those endeavors come the end of this year.
Thanks so much for coming on, man. Really appreciate it, and I'll see you in a week.
Yep. Thanks for everything you do, buddy.
Hey, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. Did you enjoy this content? If so, click like, leave us a comment, and subscribe to our channel so we can continue bringing you great content all about hiring.